right 2 lanes to keep right.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Prepare to Go There, the most overlooked and underrated coaching conversation on the internet. That's my opinion, but I'm just convinced that our future deserves our focus. No one else is going to be pioneering the future today except us. That's our job. So that's why we're here to put in the work, do the necessary yet unnoticed preparation, so that way we can show up ready. My name is Peter, and it has been a joy to go on this extended coaching journey with so many friends and leaders that really want to go the distance, make a difference. They are thinking about mission. They want to give their life in service of others, and you all inspire me. And so it's been a lot of fun to go now, I think 13 weeks straight, and we're in episode or round 66. And we're going to be talking about a linchpin best practice that we as leaders can use to both lead ourselves as well as stay focused on the future. And so if you've been tracking, I want to welcome you back to the Future Frontier. This is a conversation that's shared by a variety of friends and leaders, whether you're in the nonprofit space, doing ministry, growing communities, whether you're a creative, an influencer, an entrepreneur, maybe you're an artist, maybe you're an investor, maybe you're a parent and you want to be more organized on the home front, or maybe you're getting strategies that can help you stay focused on multiple fronts at the same time. This is the journey that I've been on for many years. And so it's a joy to just have this conversation and keep so many of you company as you're working on yourself towards a better future. And I think this conversation has resonated with so many people because this is where we are every day. We have big vision, we have big dreams. We know that we're here for a purpose, but we understand that there's also a process to walk it out. And that's the part that doesn't get a lot of attention. We hear a lot about the public and the grand sides of leadership, which are cool, but we're hearing things that help us, take shortcuts, and preparation is not a shortcut. It is a necessary process that's working on us internally, personally, so that way when we show up ready. And so it's been my observation and experience that most people don't know how to lead others into a better future. Even if they have a title, even if they have vision, that doesn't guarantee that they can actually take people into the better future that they want. And so the deal breaker, the thing that's going to make or break their ability to lead people into a better future is self-leadership. Can you lead yourself there first? And so that's why we keep showing up day after day, because we're putting in the work and we want to keep each other encouraged with coaching-based conversations so we can keep the future on the front burner where it belongs. And Prepare to Go There is a daily coaching journey. It's a call to action to stay focused on the future and then to figure out how to lead yourself there tactically day by day. If this resonates with you, I want to invite you into our email community. It's called Future Friends, and you'll get a weekly email in the form of a roundup. All of the content for that week will go to you in a bundle, and you can stay up to date on that as well. Plus, please say a prayer for me because I am taking a big step of faith and creating a lot of products or resources for you. And so I've got some goals for quarter 4. And it looks like I'm on track, but I'm going to have to really practice what we preach here every day. And so this motivates me that much more. I'm so excited about helping emerging leaders and really just pioneer thinkers to go for the future. Because when I think of the future, I think of hope. And there's always hope. It doesn't matter what you're facing, doesn't matter what you're feeling. If you are living with integrity and intentionality, there is still hope. You can win that long game. So we're going to jump right into the coaching conversation today. It's really just going to be the kickoff of a series of conversations about how we can better leverage the skill of writing to lead ourselves and create the future. And I want to look at a legendary leader, Maya Angelou, and she said, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside of you." I think just the way she, shared that puts so much language to the way many of us feel, that there's a story, there's some sort of mission and purpose, there's a narrative inside of us that has to come out, and we're looking for ways to share it. And what I have found is, if you are waiting on other things or events or people to write that story other than you, then you're going to have a lot of agony. You're going to have this pent up passion, and you're not going to know how to work through it, how to process it. And so I want to give you just a boost of encouragement. I want to give you permission to begin to tell that story, to write that narrative that is your life story, your life's work. How do we actually take initiative and use intentionality to, leverage the future? And the thing I want to give you today and also this week is a skill set. It's not just, a gift that some people have and other people don't. Yes, there are amazing authors out there, but I'm not talking about authoring a book. I'm talking about a specific skill set that you can use to leverage your future. It's a linchpin best practice that we as leaders will need to use again and again. And it's so much more than just getting good grades. It's so much more than just writing emails. It's really about using writing as a strategy to go for the future. And so we're going to be talking about writing to leverage your future. Simply put, writing will make you more productive, period. Writing will make you more productive. If you got nothing else out of this conversation, man, focus on this. Writing will make you more productive. However, it's not just about being more productive. It's not just about being more efficient, with your time. I have found that writing can also be very profound for your future as well, that it has a ripple effect that goes far and wide into your future as well as the future. I mean, think about it this way. We read the past, but we write the future. Think about that. We read the past, but we write the future. And so if you want to make a difference, if you want to go the distance, I want you to capture this life skill and say, I'm going to use this to navigate my own narrative moving forward, but I'm also going to be telling a better story that other people can be a part of. And so writing can make a massive difference in the way you're leading yourself in the day-to-day. And I just want to get over the myth, right? I want to get over all of the hangups that you may have that say, well, I'm not good with grammar. I don't I don't feel comfortable writing my feelings. I'm not a journaler. I don't like email. This has nothing to do with other people reading your stuff. Okay. This is a tool that you can use personally, that you could use privately, even if you're the only reader that goes through this, even if you write for an entire year and then for some odd reason, you just want to destroy all of that work. I mean, I don't know why you would, but you can do that. It is up to you. But this becomes a skill set that you can get better at. And I have found that a lot of friends and a lot of leaders just don't see themselves as a writer. They may see themselves as a communicator. They may see themselves as a creative. They may see themselves as a leader of, teams, but they don't really see themselves at the fundamental level as someone who is leveraging writing as a skill, as something they come back to again and again, as a repeating strategy that they're going to use to get clear and make goals and follow through and learn and level up and connect with other people. I mean, think about it. We're talking about how we're going to create, how we're going to communicate better. And writing is one of those ways. We can use it in a personal sense, just to make discoveries, make decisions, which we're going to talk about, or you can use it as a kind of a tactic that will better prepare you to step up and lead when others are listening. And the last thing we want is to, show up, have this audience, and not really know how to lead them. And so it really does start with us. It's all about intentionality. And that's something I talk about a lot on the coaching journey, but it is so important. And so I just want to use the Prepare to Go There tagline, lead yourself and stay focused on the future, as kind of the baseline why for writing. Writing will help you lead yourself. Writing will help you lead yourself. I've talked about this before, but writing is going to take on a variety of forms. You can journal, and that's probably going to be more reflective, something you'll use for reflection, something you'll use to, make decisions, make discoveries. And we need that. We need time alone. We need time to decompress, to process, to ask the questions, to stay a little bit longer in a process, or a problem that we're going to begin to navigate and work through. And I have found personally, you're working through things that is layered and nuanced and has context, and you've been living this story, and other people don't know all of the inputs that you've had. And so, this is something you've been thinking about maybe for months, just in all of these, micro moments. You heard this on the news, you saw that on social media, you read this in scripture, you had that conversation with a mentor. And so you're pulling from so many different places to put together a very well-rounded, thought process. And then here you are, you're trying to connect with another person, a spouse, a coworker, a mentor, like I mentioned, and they don't have all of those inputs that you do. And so what happens is you begin to give context and more context, and then it gets longer and longer. And honestly, they don't have the time for all of that. And so you're going to have to be willing, if you really want to navigate your own narrative, if you really want to have those strategic breakthroughs in thinking and in leading, you're going to have to be willing to go it alone. Not completely, but you have to be willing to go it alone. And journaling and writing for yourself, for personal reflection, insight, planning, development, it's a skill, and it's a benefit that can be used as you are navigating, as you're working through this. And so now, whether you have an ear or not, you have somewhere to go. You have an opportunity or an apparatus where you can begin to flesh out your ideas. And so there's this personal, internal, private dynamic where you're kind of externalizing your own process, your own journey. You're figuring things out as you go. It's super, super valuable. In fact, there was a kind of a trend back in the 1800s called the common book, or a commonplace book. And basically people were walking around with like journals, they were taking hardback or leather bound books with just pages, and they were writing in them constantly. I mean, random stuff. You would see artifacts in history where people were writing anything from like math problems to cooking recipes, little pieces of poetry. They might have scripture, they might have philosophy, and it was all kind of jumbled together like this mental stew. And whatever they were thinking about that day, they were kind of just dropping it somewhere. Because intuitively, I think people realize that, you know, your brain is meant to have ideas, not hold ideas. And so they're just trying to put it somewhere. And even though it kind of looks like chicken scratch in the moment, it looks messy and random and disorderly and just not valuable. Over time, as you look back, it became this volume, this library of life experiences, of insights, of decisions. It really became the birthplace of so many innovations. And now your process actually becomes a product. The process of just writing and learning and growing and thinking and strategizing and summarizing and doing this again and again, it actually becomes an artifact that you take with you into the future. And so even your process is valuable, let alone the things you're going to present, the things you're going to give away to other people. You know, I've said it before in the journey, but I'm inspired by Beethoven, because I heard this story that he would write music, and obviously he was kind of a miracle of a composer already, a genius of a guy, and he didn't even have his hearing, and he's, you know, playing amazing music, and he's writing and composing these songs. And I heard this story that he would literally like have an idea, he would write out the music on paper, and then he would shove it in his desk drawer. And apparently he had a few of these offices and creative stations, and so he would just write it one time on paper. He'd put the music on paper in writing one time. He'd shove it in his desk somewhere, and then he could begin to play it fluently. He would just go after it. And it wasn't so much that he needed to read the music as much as he needed to write the music. And I feel like there's so much inside of you. There's so much that has been growing and developing, maybe even groaning to come out of you. And you've been wondering for a way or a process to get it out. And so what we try to do is we lean towards, you know, people, and we say, well, I'll just tell people what I'm thinking. I'll tell people what I'm seeing. But guys, they don't have the full context. And so you need a different system so you can begin to flesh it out. And then eventually it's going to be clearer. It's going to be simpler. It's going to be more distilled. People will begin to understand what you have been seeing. And this is a part of pioneering. I call it paper trails. Pioneers go on paper trails. And so you're leaving these paper trails all the time. I mean, whether it's a bunch of Post-it notes, or whether it's in a journal or a sketchbook, whether it's a note-taking app, whether it's like a blog roll, or we'll talk about some other things, because it's not just the philosophical, you know, feelings side of writing. That's one dynamic of it, but there's some very, very profound applications to use writing as a strategy to leverage intentionality. Most of us, we're waiting on other things or other people that are waiting on us. And so we have to be willing to go on that journey alone for a time. And one of the ways we do that is we go long, we think strong, and we're leaving these paper trails behind. And I know that sounds kind of crazy. I love writing. I've already written 2 books, believe it or not. And I haven't published them. I haven't put them out. It was just something that I wanted to do. I wanted to document a season in my life, and I wanted to have a really clear manifesto that I could go back to again and again. But even that, even after all the blogs I've written, all of the presentations I've made, the sermons I've been able to put together, the team meetings that I've organized, a lot has gone into writing. And guys, I don't want to sound presumptuous. I just want to be helpful, and I want to encourage you. That is still a fraction of the writing that people see. I'm actually writing so much more privately because I'm learning. I'm learning so much. I'm thinking about so much. I'm processing so much. I'm becoming a better, learner and leader. And so I'm not even trying to write to like get everybody's act together. I'm writing for myself. I'm going on that journey. And what I have found is it's amazing how far you can go when you don't require people's attention. Let me say it again. It's amazing how much you can grow when you don't need other people's attention. You don't need their permission. They don't have to read everything you write. They don't have to see everything you hear everything you say. I don't need other people to know what I'm learning to keep learning. I don't need other people to know what I've been working on to put in the work. And that is the value. I would say that's the secret sauce of the Future Friends, is that we realize that people aren't going to understand all of this preparation we're putting in now, but it's not for now. It's so when we show up in the future, we show up ready. And so don't get hung up on how many followers you have or how many people are, up to date or in sync with your work, your process, your preparation, your projects. Like, just go for it, man. Go as far and as fast as you can. And one of the cool things that you can bring back as a series of artifacts to, into your future is all of the writing that you've done. I'm going to put myself out there and I'm going to share one of my goals, because I have a goal to actually have what I'm referring to as a lifetime library. A lifetime library. In other words, it would be kind of like the footnotes of Peter's story. And it's not for everybody. It's not for the internet. I don't really know who it's going to go to necessarily. It's not like I'm trying to be, someone really awesome like Albert Einstein or C.S. Lewis or, a president or whatever. But I feel responsible for my life story. I feel responsible to document the journey that I've been on with the Lord. I feel like I'm a steward of the story. And if people just see me from the outside, if they just know me, from just things they can see publicly, I don't think it'll really capture the awesome narrative that's been coming through. And so I'm growing in gratitude, and I want to, kind of create almost like a little bit of a time capsule with all these paper trails, and hopefully it'll become a shortcut for others. But the goal is that we've got to go on that journey, whether they're ready to go with us or not, whether people understand everything we're talking about yet or not. So you have more songs in you. You have books in you. You have innovation in you. You have ideas and strategies in you. You probably have multiple businesses in you or multiple movements in you. And so we're kind of thinking like we have to go at the pace of our audience, but really you have to go at the pace of your vision. You have to go the pace of your learning, and you have to be willing to move maybe much more nimbly than other people can go. And so I think there's plenty of precedent where you would have these kind of pioneer thinkers, and they were willing for a time to be misunderstood, or they were willing to kind of go it alone and to work on things. And then they would come back with maybe a little more proof of concept or a prototype or some sort of strategic breakthrough. And so when you don't have like a lot of people in your corner, writing becomes a personal advantage. It becomes almost a comfort mechanism that says, keep going, you got this, keep going, look how far you've come. And you're staying faithful to the story that you're a part of. So writing is both productive, but it's also very, very profound to you as a person. I mean, it's useful to keep your sanity, to develop your humanity. It's powerful if you're, cultivating creativity. It's necessary if you want to leverage productivity. And when I look back at, some of the linchpin best practices that have kept me going, kept me growing over the years, writing is a go-to. I always come back to the necessity of getting my thoughts out there and actually developing them into something valuable that I could live in or something I can give away to other people. So it is useful to lead yourself. It is useful to lead yourself. And this is something that I want to just kind of summarize, maybe just kind of sum up for a second. Like, why would you want to write to lead yourself? Meaning, if you have this kind of understanding that there's a category of things you're going to write that no one will see, then why do it? And so many people, they think that, oh, it's just a nuisance. It'll get in the way. It'll take too much time. If nobody's reading it, then why should I even go through the process? And here's why. There are two benefits to just writing for the sake of leading yourself. It'll help you make discoveries, and it'll help you make decisions. It'll help you make discoveries. It'll help you make decisions. And that's something that other people can't do for you. Those are two very intuitive experiences. Making discoveries. Other people can't make your own discoveries. They can't make those discoveries for you. They can even talk about something that's mind-blowing, and we may not even be able to process that then. But when you make your own discovery, that is amazing, and it's personal, and it's intuitive, and it is your responsibility to capture it and to do something with it. And we don't always make these discoveries when it's all floating in our head and it's kind of all in there. We have to go through the process of exploring it and explaining it, and then, walking into it. And then it's in the discipline of collecting all of these little insights along the way. I mean, we're constantly thinking and processing this stuff. And so it's that daily discipline of, boom, thought comes up, I have to do something with this. Now, it's not, you could get super bogged down by this. You can get in the weeds. I totally agree. But if you had a place, if you had a simple process just to kind of have some thoughts and jots, go from the thought to the jot, just jot it down somehow, somewhere. And maybe you could just summarize what you've been feeling in the past few days. It will be just a massive deposit of wisdom, insight, meaning that just stays with you. And you could reread it if you want, or it could be just useful to get it out of you so you're better articulating it and you're better explaining it to yourself and then to others. It's kind of practice, but it's also a necessary step in your own leadership and creative process. And so we want to leverage writing to lead ourselves really well. We're making discoveries and we're making decisions. And so I actually have kind of a two-tier system. I do journal personally, holistically. I'm thinking about kind of all the fronts of my life at one time. And I'm using that in more of a storytelling way. It's not Dear Diary by any means, but again, I feel responsible to steward my story. And so I have a very specific format that I use to keep up with my story. And I'm, kind of putting earmarks, or I'm putting little check marks on every life update. And then I'm describing the life upgrades that I'm going through. And that's the first tier. And then the second tier of this personal writing approach is with a planner. And this has become so much fun. I've been kind of journaling for a few years now, but writing for the purpose of goal setting and, time mapping and project creation or content, The more I do this, the more I love this, and the more it just convinces me that this is the right way to do it. In fact, I've kind of come up with a dumb little adage or a little motto that for me, at least for me, I don't know if this science, applies to everybody, but I want to give it away as a gift because it's done so much for me personally. I say the right way to do anything starts with writing. The right way. You're saying, hey, what's the right way to have a morning routine? What's the right way to, build a deck? What's the right way to make a project? What's the right way to have a meaningful conversation? What's the right way to whatever? For me, like having, even if it's just like a little blurb, I want to slow down, be present, get prepared, put it on paper on purpose, whether that's handwritten or like a note-taking app, and being able just to, design some sort of intended path or intended outcome, and even use like some, future present language to say, I see this, I believe this, I affirm this, I am becoming this. And you can really identify with your future by using language. And I won't turn this into a sermon because I know there's probably a bunch of people that are already thinking on that wavelength. But I mean, what a powerful way to use your words and to be creative and descriptive. And it really is a life-changing exercise. So we want to leverage writing to help us lead ourselves. Other people aren't going to be around all the time. So what can we do by ourselves that help us stay the course? And writing is a powerful strategy for that. Another thing that I've learned is that writing helps you focus on the future. Writing helps you focus on the future. In other words, you don't need to be there in the moment just to make the decision or to have the instructions or to have the template or to have the thing ready. You can actually show up ahead of time with something prepared for that moment. And that is an awesome thing, that you already have been working on goals that are not due until later on. You've been making a meeting agenda before you ever show up into the circle of your coworkers. Maybe you've been writing down your values and you've been working on pre-decisions. These are things that you can do before you ever show up. And I heard this story that really inspired me. There was a man who was a football coach at a kind of college level. And he was at a smaller college when he first started, but he wanted to be the head coach of one of those big colleges. And so he had put in a few applications and they didn't end up anywhere. And he was thinking about quitting. And then he had somebody give him some advice. He said, hey, just start preparing for the head coach position before you get the job. I mean, you won't have time to come up with all the plays, right? You won't have time to make all the decisions, right? So start working in advance and just make a binder and just kind of put it all together and keep going. And so he did it. Well, he put in a few more applications. They, ended up as dead ends, the same as before. So he kept working on his binder, and then he put in a few more applications. It didn't work. And it kind of became a game to him. He just kept working on the binder. And eventually he got a phone call, and it was one of the big colleges. And they said, hey, we've seen your track record. You're really good, but I just want to tell you, full disclosure, we're only doing this interview as a formality. We kind of already know who our number one pick is going to be, but we're required to have multiple interviews before we make a final decision. Are you okay if we fly you out? We'll give you a nice steak dinner, and we'll make it worth your trip, but don't get your hopes up. And he said, sure, I'll do it. And he brought his binder with him. And so he brings this binder. And by that time, it had gotten pretty thick because he was writing stuff little by little. He'd just been adding different, how to do the defensive side, how to do the offensive side, how to do his special teams, how he would do, special cases, how we would respond in different press release situations. And so he brings that binder, and the people hosting the interview, they weren't expecting him to be that prepared. They thought they were just going to, give him a steak dinner and send him on his way. They were floored by how much work he had put into that binder. And they said, what would you say if we told you right now that you're going to be the next head coach of this big college? And he said, hold on. And he flipped. This is crazy. He flipped in the binder to the page where he had already written his acceptance speech. I was blown away by that. That was amazing. And that is one of the benefits of writing, that it will keep you focused on your future. It'll keep you focused on your future, whether that's goal setting or whether that's project planning or, scheduling out your time. We have to be intentional about where we're going and how we're getting there. And writing becomes one of the ways that we can leverage it. So that is the big idea for today. I want to remind you, kind of as homework, are you making discoveries? And then if so, where's it going? Are you making decisions? And then if so, how are you acting upon them? Writing becomes one of those systems, one of those tools that you can use to move forward with it. So this week, I just want to give you a preview of where we're heading, and then we'll land the plane. But I'm going to be talking in more detail about the private side of writing and the kind of the strategy that I'm using just to write for myself, and how I'm able to keep up with all of the volume. Because one of the things you'll face is organization. You'll get into a lot of clutter. There might be a backlog. You might not know what to do with all the random links and facts, that you're coming up with, all these little trails, and they're just kind of like rabbit trails that go here and there and everywhere. And you're wondering, how do you make sense of all of it? There is a simple way. I have a paper-based system, and then it all kind of flushes into or funnels into Evernote, which is a digital note-taking app that's been really effective for me over the years. And then after that, I'm going to be basically talking about journaling for non-journalers, because so many people, they get weirded out by the idea of doing a diary. They don't want Dear Diary, and they don't want people reading what they wrote. And I'd say you got to get over it. You really do. You got to get over it, because you have stuff inside of you that has to come out, and it needs to be put on the canvas of your own context and your work, and you got to work through it. So we're going to be talking about journaling for non-journalers and how to really weaponize all of those wonderful things that you're thinking about on a day-to-day basis. Then we're going to be moving into more of a content creation mode. We're going to be talking about how do you leverage writing to create great content, communicate great content. I love just kind of going off on a tangent. I love having downloads. I love having these like deep conversations with friends. But I have learned as a leader, it is better to be prepared, to be organized, to kind of know what the overall roadmap is, and then to take people on that journey at a pace that they can handle. Because face it, as leaders, we have the edge, we have an advantage. We kind of already know what we're thinking about. They don't. And so here we go, zigging, zagging. And to give you a word picture of what it might feel like on the listening side, it's like they're hanging on to the inner tube on the lake, and we're on the speedboat just kind of ripping it, and we're going right and left, and there they go flying off on the side somewhere. They have some wipeout in the water because they can't keep up with what you're what you're sharing and what you're saying to them. And so how do we actually lead people? How do we actually communicate ideas in a way that people can, hang on and they can actually get on board? We get buy-in, we get consensus. Writing is a really powerful strategy to communicate that content. And then finally, I'm going to be talking about how do we use writing for goal setting and project managing. And instead of just having a to-do list or showing up every day at 0 and just kind of thinking of, okay, what do I have to do today? How would you develop a more future present based system where you're keeping up with your progress? You're not reinventing the wheel every day, every week, but you're actually moving towards the big goals, in 90-day chunks, 30-day chunks, and on from there. And that's more of the planner side. So we'll start the week with the journaling aspect. That's more personal, private, introspective, but very, very transformative. And then we'll finish up with, more of the leadership side and more of the external execution side of things. So hopefully this will be a fun ride, a great conversation. Feel free to drop in your questions. For instance, if you have a question right now, I don't want you to wait till future Friday. If there is something you want to kind of clarify before we wrap up this conversation, go ahead and throw that in the chat right now. But hopefully you can see I am very passionate about equipping you with a linchpin best practice that has made a big difference for me personally. And you can still throw anything in the chat, but for right now, I will just move on with the kind of the outro of sorts. If you enjoyed this conversation, if it was helpful, and you realize, wow, I'm not using writing on the level that I really can to lead myself or make moves into the future. I've been writing emails. I wrote college papers. I'm sending text messages. I know how to, say things and sum things up, but I'm not really creating insightful content, or I'm not really making intentional progress because I'm not tracking with a writing-based approach. If that's you, I want you to be a part of this coaching journey. And this is just one conversation out of a handful that we've had over the past now 66 rounds. And so I want you to be a part of the email community so you can have access to all of this. And yes, there's a lot on YouTube, on the YouTube channel, but there is also a lot that the email community is getting, and that is not for the YouTube channel. And I want to say thank you just for sticking around, listening this long. There's a free gift waiting on you. There's a link at the bottom of this video, and it is your free fail-proof planning guide. It'll help you really start with your roles and your goals, identify some of the rhythms and the routines that can help you with sustainability, and then it'll give you a plan, a proven step-by-step plan to plan out the kind of days and weeks that you can get going and get better with. So that is that for today. I really appreciate you being on. I want to remind you, you are going places. I'm so inspired to think about what you're going to be doing in the future. And so that's why I want to invest deeply in friends and leaders, because the future is going to need more leaders, not fewer. And leadership is going to be more valuable in the future, not less. And so let's put in the work today. Let's make it count. And remember, as always, you're going places, but you got to prepare to go there. So I will see you tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Remember, you're going places, prepare to go there.